ایران، چشمانداز تغییر رژیم، سیاست آمریکا و اتحادیه اروپا. کنفرانس بین‌المللی در پاریس با حضور اعضای ارشد کنگره آمریکا و شخصیت‌های سیاسی و کارشناسان از فرانسه و کشورهای عربی و اروپایی. 5 اسفند 1396، 24 فوریه 2018.
Chers amis, distinguished guests, dear friends, bienvenue and bonjour à tous. Welcome to today's event. Today we will be addressing the prospects for change in Iran in 2018 and US and EU policy in this regard, as our panelists from both sides of the Atlantic will share their insights on the critical issue. In the last days of December 2017, nationwide protests were launched in over 142 cities across Iran, waking the international community to the situation in Iran and the just demands and cries of the Iranian people for change. From Mashhad to Ahvaz and from Kermanshah to Toysarkhan, the people of Iran took to the streets with a united voice, chanting, "Reformers, hardliners, the game is over." We pay tribute to the courageous youth who have sacrificed their lives in their quest for freedom and democracy, and we salute the courageous women and men who continue to stand in defiance.
Thank you very much. It's okay, thank you. Thank you. For those of you who have visited the United States Congress and looked out onto the floor of Congress, you will note that there are only 2 paintings on the wall facing us as we make law and policy. One is of George Washington, of course, the father of our country. Who's the other? Lafayette, a large picture of Lafayette, because even today we Americans recognize and are grateful for the role that France played in the winning of our freedom and liberty in the United States. We have then a debt to pay, and that debt can be paid with our support for those people who are likewise struggling for their freedom and liberty in far-off reaches of the world. Without freedom, prosperity is usually destroyed, because without freedom, there is corruption. Without freedom, there is adventurism, especially military adventurism, that eats up the wealth of the people. And so without freedom, you have corruption, and you have no peace, so you have no prosperity, and you have no peace. In the last uprising that took place in Iran in 2009, our President Obama, went exactly the wrong direction. Our president was inconsistent in his silence toward the repression of those people in the streets of Tehran. He was inconsistent with the tradition of our country and contrary to our interests. Today, we have a new president of the United States. And I will tell you, in the uprising that has just happened in the last few months, we are on the side of the people and against the mullah regime. Is not just, of course, repressing their people, which we are hearing about today, but they have destroyed the process that when you have no freedom, you have corruption and terrorism overseas. The resources of their people on of Islam out throughout the region, a waste of resources. Worse, better than better, but also they have brought in a clique of corrupt officials, the economic being people. Yes, that clique has way that their wealth has been taken and stolen. We have to let people know that was enough is enough. The mullah regime to go. The people of the United States will unequivocally be on supporting the people and reform. We will no longer, like the United States, seek to have in which we'll basically not recognize what we're dealing with. Today, I can that we, the people of the United States, will be siding in the and those people who are demonstrating and those people who are seeking to have legitimate democracy rather than governments is out to obtain some. The only real legitimate government is to protect the to accept religious views and to be able to like their without interference from the government. Do not or any other the people of this world how today we stand in solidarity with all people everywhere who believe that mankind has a chance to uplift the condition. We aren't by wasting our money on tourism. We're not do some type of stuff. We're doing the and man, and we will side people for that we will side. The free people will stand. It's time for freedom in our
Be seated, please. Thank you for inviting me to be here. There are growing signs that the efforts of the Iranian people are cracking the iron grip fist of the illegitimate regime in Iran. They can't sleep at night. The Iranian people send them away. The young people of Iran are giving them nightmares. Freedom is also in them. The regime, we have learned that great teacher. It is never going to change. They will never compromise their iron totalitarian grip on the people. American mullahs. In 2009, the regime are imprisoned, beat, tortured, killed. Many young people, you know what? They're doing it again. A teacher change. They are protesters whose only cry, the only they have. Iran. The champions of liberty are once again persecuted by the supreme leader's cronies. Now we see the young people take to the streets. All the enthusiasm of the millennials are taken to the streets because they want a free Iran. Iran has earned the title of the #1 state sponsor of terrorism in the world, in the whole world. There are 198 countries, give or take 2 or 3 every day. And in all of those nations, Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. The regime not only funds terrorist groups in the world, the regime terrorizes its own people. How shameful is that? It rules through fear and oppression. It wants the people to be fearful of the regime. Any regime that has to terrorize its own people to maintain power is an illegitimate regime and should not be in power. The freedom-loving people of Iran, those here, those in many countries, and those in Iran, will not back down. I'm convinced, as an outsider, that you will not back down. The opposition is as fierce as ever, and the people are fighting on the streets with their words, with the freedom of speech, the freedom to assemble. This is why the regime is fighting back with brutality, because what you do and say is working. You know, a regime that denies freedom to others does not deserve it for themselves. And these protesters, you protesters, fearlessly take to the street despite the brutality and chance of death of the dictator. Forget about Syria. Think about us. The world always and should admire these freedom fighters. Women are involved, young women, maybe more women than men are involved in this fight for freedom. You know, the mullahs in Tehran don't care about the people of Iran. They really don't. They only care about two things: power and money. Your money. Money they take from you, the people of Iran, and put in their pockets, and also to fund terrorism throughout the world. You know, the mullahs of Iran are at war. They're at war with the Iranian people. The mullahs are at war with your neighbors in Yemen. The mullahs are at war with the people of Syria. And the mullahs are at war with all peoples who believe in freedom. Instead of improving the economy in Iran and ensuring that the average Iranian can make a living, they send hundreds of millions of dollars of Iranian people's money to export terrorism throughout the world. What does that mean? That means that there are groups that the Iranian government gives money to pillage, rape, and murder other peoples throughout the world. Wherever there is turmoil in the world, just look around. The mullahs are there with their terrorist groups. They have used their band of thugs and the IRGC and their proxy Hezbollah to sow discord throughout the Middle East. Not only that, Hezbollah, that's funded by the IRGC, that is funded by the Iranian government, has been raising money for their terrorist exploits by drug trafficking in South America. When the regime bankrolls this terrorism, Iranian civilians at home suffer, as my friend Mr. Rohrbacher has said. They suffer from jobs, the lack of them. They suffer from not getting paid. They suffer from pensions because that money is going somewhere else. The people of Iran and your family members, they've been imprisoned, tortured, brutally murdered for years. This has been going on. Good folks in the camps in Iraq were constantly targeted by the IRGC. In the Camp Ashraf, Camp Liberty, the murders of those folks cannot ever be forgotten. And the world must remember that of all those people murdered in Iraq, in the camps, not one of the killers has ever been brought to trial to stand for justice for what they have committed. And I commend the people for continuing to fight for what they believe in. Yes, there must be a regime change. But let me make it very clear. This regime change must be not from outside powers, outside governments coming in and militarily changing the regime. We've seen that happen in the Middle East. This regime change must be from the people of Iran that live in Iran and that live throughout the world. The United States, however, must make sure that we have a strategy to neutralize the IRGC's activity outside of Iran. We've recently designated the IRGC and their band of thugs for their terrorist activity. And I've introduced legislation that would put terrorist sanctions on their foreign proxies in Iraq and Syria as well. You know, some of you, as was introduced, I used to be a judge in Texas for a long time, longer than some of y'all have been alive. And one thing that I learned as a judge that I believed in every day was the word justice. Justice. And there is no justice for the people of Iran. There's not. By anybody's standard throughout the world, there's no justice. That is sad. But that should increase the fire in your belly to be strong and fight for what you believe in, freedom. The tide is turning, and the days of this terrorist regime in Tehran are numbered. And it will be the Iranian people who bring them to justice. So I say to you, you daughters of democracy, you sons of liberty, you youthful young patriots, do not grow weary. Be strong and courageous, and let the people of Iran sing a new song, one of peace, one of liberty, one of freedom, one of breaking off the chains of slavery. And let the people sing a new song. So I tell you, freedom fighters, to rise up, and soon we will go, arm in arm, marching through the streets of Tehran, singing a new song of freedom, liberty, and peace. And that's just the way it is. Thank you.